Hey, even though it was only released over a week ago, I just found out via Mac Rumors that with macOS 26 Tahoe, which is now numbered after the year instead of the version, Apple has officially dropped support for IEEE-1394, aka FireWire. I could kind of see this day eventually coming, especially after Apple pretty much replaced FireWire with Thunderbolt around 2012. Thunderbolt was co-developed with Apple and Intel, taking a cue from when Apple developed FireWire and Mini DisplayPort and when Intel co-developed USB. As such, Thunderbolt transfers data in a steady, continuous stream a la FireWire, compared to the variable stream rates of USB. Additionally, Thunderbolt devices can be daisy-chained, just like FireWire. This is why Apple's older Thunderbolt cinema display for the 2010s also included a FireWire 800 jack. And Apple also developed a FireWire to Thunderbolt adapter as part of coming out with the first Retina display MacBook Pros. These were the first to not include FireWire, but they did include more than one Thunderbolt port, being the first Mac laptop to do so. As such, these were really snazzy machines for digital media work, even if you were still using a legacy FireWire device. Then there's also how the very first iPods used FireWire to sync and charge them. Of course, these ancient iPods won't even work with the newest macOS versions, even back when FireWire was supported. But anyways, the only times I've really used FireWire with my M1 MacBook Air were a few times I imported some older analog video, often using my Sony DCR-TR V460 digital 8 camcorder hooked up to my FireWire to Thunderbolt adapter daisy chain, or to the Thunderbolt display, as in addition to playing back video 8 and high 8 analog cassettes, I can also use its analog to digital pass-through by hooking a VCR up to it so it acts like a dedicated digital converter. But now, if I want to import analog video from a VCR directly into my MacBook Air, I could probably just get a decent Mac-compatible USB or even Thunderbolt video capture device, such as the USB video capture from Elgato. Or alternatively, I could use one of the older FireWire-enabled Macs in my collection of vintage computing stuff. It won't run the latest and greatest software, but as long as what's on it works and gets the job done, then I'm satisfied. You're already familiar with me sometimes shooting some kind of retro video on mini DV or even digital 8, just for throwback purposes, and then editing it on one of the older Macs using an older version of iMovie or Final Cut or Premiere or whatever. Again, it's fun to do, but the editing does take a little longer compared to when I shoot a video like this on my Canon Vixia HFR600 camcorder. Not because of its much higher video quality, but because importing the footage via an SD card reader is a lot faster compared to the real-time capturing and shuttling required with tape-based DV cameras. Also, modern video editing applications, even the professional level ones packed with way more features than their predecessors, seem to get the job done a lot faster. Even when you compare a version of Adobe Premiere from nearly 25 years ago with the latest Adobe Premiere Pro version, also factoring in a certain computer's horsepower. Comparing a 1.25 GHz Power Mac G4 with 2 GB of RAM and an ATI Radeon 9000 Pro graphics card with 64 MB dedicated video RAM, it's definitely not going to be as fast and powerful as a 15-inch 2.4 GHz Core 2 Duo MacBook Pro with 4 GB of RAM and an NVIDIA GeForce 8600 MGT graphics card with 256 MB of video RAM. Let alone my M1 chip MacBook Air with its 8-core graphics and 60 GB of RAM. Regarding older Macs being used for working with older video formats, I've seen at least a few professional analog to digital video conversion services having such old Macs enabled with the FireWire, as well as built-in DVD drives for those purposes. if they want to import footage from mini DV or digital 8 tapes, or also digitize analog video and high 8 tapes in a digital 8 camcorder, like I currently do for my college's TV studio, using such a FireWire to Thunderbolt daisy chain on one of the new new iMacs still running macOS 15. Additionally, I know sometime last year, Apple also discontinued that FireWire to Thunderbolt adapter. But that was because it largely is the older Thunderbolt 1 and 2 connector style, which is why they also discontinued their Ethernet to Thunderbolt adapter using that same connector. But at least they still made the Thunderbolt 2 to 3 adapter for the daisy chain. Additionally, I also remember the target disk mode on PowerPC and Intel Macs that required FireWire. When you boot a Mac in target disk mode, it then functions like an external hard drive, meaning you could then hook it up to another FireWire-enabled Mac and access the data on it, which was useful if the computer couldn't boot into the macOS, or if you just wanted to copy over a huge load of files that would end up being slow via USB or network connection. Well, in 2012, Apple revised target disk mode so it could also work via Thunderbolt, given it also transfers data in the same steady continuous stream. On the modern Apple Silicon Macs, though, target disk mode was replaced with a very similar Mac sharing mode that works in virtually the same way, though you boot into it a little differently. Again, you could do it via Thunderbolt, but now it also works at USB-C. But yeah, Apple is finally completely dropping support for one of their legacy technologies, namely IEEE-1394 FireWire, which played a big part in the rise of popularity of digital video camcorders and digital music creation and editing, and the iPod music player, along with external hard drives, I might add. Early ones like this used FireWire because it was way faster than the original 1990s version of USB. Up until USB 2 came out, with a transfer rate roughly as fast as the 6-pin variety of FireWire. And soon external hard drives like this one also offered both FireWire and USB 2 as an option. But nowadays, we're in an age where Thunderbolt and USB-C allow us extremely fast data rate transfers, especially for external storage. As such, I currently got a couple of G-Drive Thunderbolt 3 external hard drives I use in my home computing setup, and each one has an extra Thunderbolt port for daisy chaining purposes. The black one is my audio-visual production drive at a whopping 8 terabytes. The Thunderbolt 3 transfer speed combined with the 7200 RPM spinning speed of the drive makes it very fast and beefy. But when I'm on the go, I do have a regular USB-C Samsung T7 Shield SSD for doing audio-visual work with 4 terabytes of storage space, along with this LaCie external rugged 4 terabyte USB-C hard drive for additional on-the-go storage if need be. So yeah, it's the end of an era with the macOS no longer supporting FireWire after finally completing its development 30 years ago. But at least I still have that nifty collection of older Macintosh computers and some DV-related camcorders I still like to play around with just for fun throwbacks. And while FireWire on the Mac may be done for, my YouTube channel sure isn't. So keep watching as always to see whatever happens here next.